Political parties signed second peace accord as United States expresses solidarity with Nigeria ahead of the polls.
President Buhari launches COVID security equipment for the military and police.
Supreme Court reserves judgment on monetary policy.
Good Morning Nigeria today discusses the 2023 general elections, second National Peace Accord.
Nigeria's history indeed will appear incomplete without mentioning electoral violence and other acts contravening electoral laws that often manifest before and after elections. Nigerian politics in the last 2 decades has continued to witness series of violent post-election destruction and loss of lives and property, which eventually brought about the concept of being committed to a peace accord initiated by the Goodluck Jonathan administration ahead of the 2015 general elections. The essence, of course, is to prevent violence and promote issue-based campaign by presidential candidates and chairpersons of political parties contesting in the election.
Well, just to indicate there, the National Peace Accord was actually the brainchild of the National Peace Committee in Yere, and that was in 2015, and it had nothing to do with the Goodluck Jonathan administration directly. There were 2 gentlemen who, of course, first discussed the idea, namely Chief Emeka Anyaoku, former Secretary General of the Commonwealth, and Kofi Annan, former Secretary General of the United Nations. They then invited Bishop Matthew Hassan Kukan to convene the National Peace Committee, and from there the idea was then developed. And of course, you have as chairman of the National Peace Committee former Head of State General Abdul Salami Abubakar. So it wasn't a government. It wasn't a government idea in the first instance.
Yeah, but Jonathan actually accepted that it should be included as a part of activities before the election by candidates. Some government would say, well, we don't need that. No. He was brought on board, if you may. He was brought on board, not that he initiated it. There were conversations at some point to convert the committee into a commission, which then would have made it a government entity, but that's also been resisted. So as it were, the NPC, that's the National Peace Committee, serves as an NGO. It serves as an NGO, and the membership, of course, is populated by preeminent Nigerians. But its mandate has since expanded. You recall the tension ahead of the 2015 general elections, and everyone was quite apprehensive as to the level of violence that might break out, bearing in mind what happened in 2011, because even after the elections of 2011, violence broke out in a number of states across the Federation, which then led to the Lemu panel that made a number of recommendations. But of course, the experience also of Kenya, if you remember, Kenya had its own catastrophic encounter with electoral violence in 2015, and Nigeria wanted to avoid that. That tension was always there. But this was a private initiative, and happily the conveners and other members of the Peace Committee were then able to bring the incumbent President Goodluck Jonathan and the challenger at that time being Muhammadu Buhari of the All Progressives Congress. And they signed that first peace accord committing to peace and acceptance of the outcome of the elections. And one point to also clarify, because the chairman of the Peace Committee himself has often said this. If you recall, while the results were still being collated at the International Conference Center in March of 2015, there were concerns, and then you had the so-called Oruebe incident that tried to either delay or disrupt the final collation of the results. There were some accounts that said that it was the National Peace Committee that prevailed on Goodluck Jonathan to accept. No, that's been clarified. General Salami Abubakar said that wasn't the case. Yes, they were planning to go to the villa, but before they even actualized their plan of going to the villa, President Goodluck Jonathan, as he has written in his memoirs, My Transition Hours, picked up his phone at 4:45 in the evening of March 31st, 2015, and put a call through to his challenger, then Muhammadu Buhari, congratulating him on the elections and asking him to get by so that they could work out the transition arrangements. So that was what happened. And of course, the National Peace Committee and the Peace Accord have become, as it were, now part of our electoral cycle in the general elections. And more particularly, the Peace Committee has been requested to come in, usually for the off-cycle elections. We saw it in Edo, Oshun, Anambra, Ekiti, Kogi, and elsewhere. So that's precisely what has happened. And so yesterday, of course, you had the second signing coming on 5 months after the first signing. There are quite unsavory developments, as Salami Abubakar said yesterday, in terms of adherence to the prescriptions of the peace accord. Yeri?
Well, very true. And like Kingsley said, despite the subscription to the peace accord by political parties, the 2023 general elections campaign witnessed its share of political drama and violence, indicating that most politicians are not ready to abide by the letters of the peace accord, which was signed the day after the commencement of campaigns in September 28, 2022.
For example, here, since September 29th, when the first Peace Pact was signed, a number of INEC offices have been burnt by hoodlums, in addition, of course, to incitement of violence by political gladiators. Party supporters have also been attacked, candidates harassed and attacked, while hoodlums have dared security agencies by invading rallies.
All right, and that will be our focus on Good Morning Nigeria today, as we look at the peace accords that have been signed, the one just at the start of the campaign and then the one signed yesterday. So we shall take a look at the impacts of this peace accord and if it has any effect on the electoral process in the country. I'm Yen Ray John. I welcome you to another interesting edition of the program, Good Morning Nigeria.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague here to also welcome you to the program. And we are live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. In the course of the program, we have our regular complimentary segments. These include newspaper review and business. For now, Olajide Bello has the highlights of the morning news. Good morning, Olajide.
Good morning, Nyere. Good morning, Kingsley. And good morning, Nigeria. Here's the news. Chairman and candidates of the 18 political parties contesting the 2023 presidential election have firmly committed themselves to not only peaceful conduct of the exercise, but also accepting its outcome if adjudged to be free, fair and credible. This was at the second signing ceremony of the National Peace Accord for the election. President Muhammadu Buhari, who witnessed the event, promised that his administration will continue to act with neutrality and allow the rule of law to take precedence over political expedience.
I assure INEC, the security agencies, and all relevant institutions saddled with the responsibility of conducting the elections of this administration continuous support. I ask you to be firm and courageous and to abide by the laws and the constitutional provisions in conducting the elections.
I urge all stakeholders to understand this event has the potential of setting a positive trajectory in our journey to a peaceful and more democratized Nigeria.
I passionately appeal to the political actors to embrace peace and be civil in their engagements before, during, and after the elections.
The United States says it stands with Nigeria in how people as the country goes to the polls on Saturday. In a video message to Nigerians led by the U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, says the U.S. government is not supporting any individual candidate or party but standing with Nigeria in the efforts to consolidate our democracy.
Nigeria's constitution, like America's,
begins with this simple and profound idea: we the people.
And during this election, you, the people of Nigeria, have a chance to make your voices heard, to choose your future.
The United States does not support any individual candidate for office.
But we strongly support a peaceful election
that reflects the will of the people of Nigeria.
Because free and fair elections in Nigeria help create a freer and fairer world for everyone.
Your vote matters. This election matters, not only to Nigerians, but to the rest of the world.
We're invested in your success. Our shared democratic futures depend on it.
Go to inecnigeria.org to prepare to vote, because your voice matters.
The Nigerian people have a friend and partner in the United States of America.
A crucial meeting of the National Security Council has ended in Abuja with a firm assurance to Nigerians that the 2023 elections will be held and scheduled across the country. President Muhammadu Buhari, who convened the meeting, directed the security forces to ensure that nothing is left to chance towards ensuring peaceful and hate-free conduct of the exercise.
The summary and conclusion of all submissions was to the effect that the system is wholeheartedly ready for the conduct of the election on the 25th day of February 2023, and Mr. President and the Council, the National Security Council, are happy with the preparations on the ground. The resolution of the Council is to the effect that the elections are holding and there is no going back about it.
Interfaith Dialogue Forum for Peace, a non-political organization, wants stakeholders, particularly religious leaders, to show commitment through their activities to the project of promoting Nigeria as an indivisible nation. It is part of the group's desire towards a peaceful presidential election.
The security forces should step up operations against armed groups and protect electoral commission offices countrywide, as well as the polling units and collation centers. Insecurity should not be used as a tool to serve political interests, such as voter suppression in some part of the country.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Ogun State, says its office in Okei is intact, contrary to social media reports suggesting an attack. This follows an explosion at the Okei Local Government Secretariat.
We had an explosive at Okei Local Government Area Secretariat in the night, maybe at about 8:30 yesterday. We only had sand, and it was discovered that from the back of the secretariat, they planted explosives there, which damaged one of the electricity blocks. There is no life was lost.
President Muhammadu Buhari says he is not only exceedingly honored, but also gratified and fulfilled to be leading a country at a time when its private sector galvanizes itself to support the government enthusiastically in the fight against insecurity and other social ills bedeviling the society. This was while launching and handing over critical security equipment procured by the coalition of private sector against COVID-19 COVID for military and the police.
Today is indeed a very happy day for all Nigerians, and I can happily say that I am the envy of many presidents in the world. I am proud to say that there is nowhere in the entire world except in Nigeria where the private sector has voluntarily come together to assist the government efforts.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo Wednesday unveiled a compendium of achievements of President Buhari's two-term captured by the ministerial scorecard series organized by the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed.
And of course the work of government continues. Government, as we know, is a continuum. It is the desire of every elected government that the unfinished business of its administration finds continuity and fulfillment in subsequent governments. And I believe I speak the mind of the President when I say that our administration considers it a privilege and an honor to serve the people of this great nation, as we have done in the last 8 years.
Parties to the suit challenging the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN's new monetary policy before the Supreme Court have adopted their brief with judgment to be delivered on the 3rd of March 2023.
The President will do nothing to undermine the powers and jurisdiction of this court. We are all working at trying to salvage a difficult situation.
The President has powers, but that power must be exercised judicially and judiciously.
That's the news for now. Good morning, Nigeria continues with Yuri and Kingsley after the break. Do stay with us.
The Kano State government is organizing a workshop on capacity building for Kano State information officers on the conduct of the 2023 general election in Nigeria in collaboration with the National Broadcasting Commission (NBC). Special guest of honor, His Excellency Governor of Kano State, Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, Chairman of the occasion, His Royal Highness Emir of Kano Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero, CFR. Date Thursday, 23rd February 2023. Venue Coronation Hall, Government House, Kano. Time 10 a.m. Announcer Balarebe Shehu Ilela, Director General, NBC.
Time don't come for every man to fight for the soul of we country Nigeria. Now who go save our fatherland? Who go rescue Nigeria? Now only one man is stand gidigba and he ready for the battle. Now man we will fit trust Kankpe, he get experience, he get sense, and we all know him. In name na Atiku Abubakar. We dey call him the unifier, and in job now to save we country and bring our people together. He get Nigeria for mind and he ready to work make Nigeria safe and better again. Atiku dey come together with Ifeanyi Okowa. This team na helele. This no be time for sentiment or paddy. No, this na time for competence. This man sabi him job wella. Atiku na the answer and solution for a brighter and safer tomorrow. Make we vote Atiku for president for 2023. Vote PDP. Power to the people. Na Atiku Okowa coalition Edo State bring una this message.
Our pastors, our imams, in every church, in every mosque, please realize that in the course of praying for peaceful and transparent elections, we all have duties beyond prayers. If we want a stable society before, during, and after the elections, what should you be saying to those that worship with you? All Sundays and all Fridays, you are saddled with the responsibility of bringing up good generations. It is therefore your duty to both man and God to ensure peace all the time, no matter about elections alone. People talk to people and people listen. Talk to your followers. Make them listen to ensure peaceful 2023 elections. This message is from the National Orientation Agency.
Are you obedient? My better country people, no forget to say for this presidential election when they come for February 25th, we all don't agree say now only one man we go vote for. The man when go play us wayo, the man when go end crime, person when go make our life better. That man now Peter Obi of Labour Party LP, the party when he get Papa, Mama and Pikin as logo. For in time as governor of Anambra State, now $150 million and a plenty billion naira in leave for him state account. Even self, he no ever owe salary or pension for him state. Lie. My people, them say plenty talk not the full basket too. So therefore, make we all forward march one time go our polling unit with our PVC on the 25th of February to vote for Peter Obi of Labour Party for president. Vote Dati Papa Ahmed for vice president. Vote for Labour Party LP, the party where they get Papa, Mama and Pikin as logo. Obi Dati 2023, a new Nigeria day possible. Are you obedient?
The security challenges we have faced as a government have been daunting, from terrorism to banditry, to kidnapping, to separatist violence, to crude oil theft, to armed robbery and sundry crimes. It's undoubtedly the greatest challenge to the peace and security of our great country since the Civil War of 1967 to 1970. It is a kind of challenge that would have overwhelmed many nations. But thanks to the purposeful leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari, we can say, I want to repeat, that the worst is over and peace and security are gradually returning to the land.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Great people of our land, now as we stand at the dawn of light, did you know that while our gallant men were fighting off bandits and insurgents, we were also laying a solid foundation for the infrastructure revolution to spark the growth of our economy? Did you know that the APC government has put our trains back in motion? That we have completed and commissioned 569 combined kilometers connecting Nigerians to friends, families, and trade by trains, creating hundreds of thousands of jobs across the value chain. Now, as we stand at this dawn of light, let us move forward with renewed hope. Let's elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Senator Kashim Shettima as President and Vice President to birth the greater Nigeria of our collective dreams.
This message is brought to you by the National Working Committee of the APC.
APC Progress!
Welcome back. This is Good Morning Nigeria live in the network service of the NTA. Time to have a bit of business, and Alika Okmanachi Arawa is our guide.
The National Bureau of Statistics says Nigeria's economy grew in the fourth quarter of last year at a faster pace compared to the previous quarter. Official data released on Wednesday notes Africa's biggest economy saw its gross domestic product grow by 3.52% year-on-year in real terms in fourth quarter of 2022, down from 2.25% in third quarter and 3.98% in the same period. According to the report also, the economy slowed to 3.10% in full year in 2022 from 3.40% in 2021. The performance of the GDP in the fourth quarter of 2022 was driven mainly by the service sector, which recorded a growth of 5.69% and contributed 56.27% to the aggregate GDP. The report also said that although the agricultural sector grew by 2.05% in the reference period, its performance was significantly hampered by severe indices of flood experienced across the country, accounting for lesser growth relative to the fourth quarter of 2021, which was 3.58%. Now let's take a look at Wednesday tradings on the floor of the exchange. With business news, Alika Okmanachi Arawa.
Thank you very much, Alika Okmanachi Arawa, for the business news package. And Good Morning Nigeria. Coming up next is newspaper review.
Our newspaper reviewer, Chukwudi Okoli Ugbaja, is right here with us. Good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Very well. Welcome.
Good morning, Kingsley.
Chukwudi, good to see you.
Same here.
All right, so let's begin with the New Telegraph this morning. And we have the boldest headline that leads with this kicker: suits challenging Naira swap. Major setback for vote buyers as Supreme Court fixes March 3 for judgment. You can read up the details on pages 2, 3, and 28 of the New Telegraph. Above that story, we have just below the masthead, why Nigeria's election matters to the U.S. Again, Atiku, Tinubu, Obi, others sign peace accord. INEC begins daily update. We also have right here, DSS police foil attempt to assassinate Osun Speaker. The riders, 5 APC members killed, explosions, gunshots at Port Harcourt TV and radio stations. Polls, IGP orders movement restriction, says some governors under probe for inciting statements. Details on pages 4 and 26 of the New Telegraph. And just above the masthead, we have federal government failed Gazette stores 6.9 trillion naira ICRC projects. And just quickly looking away from that now, finally from the New Telegraph this morning, we have Buhari launches 12 billion naira security equipment donated by COVID coalition, raised 82 billion naira to combat COVID-19. That's coming from Dangote, and you can find details on page 28. Other stories are right here in the New Telegraph. You can read them up.
All right, let's take a look also at the front page of Leadership newspaper. EFCC deploys officers against vote buying. Naira swap will refuse to be scapegoat, says Supreme Court. 2023 polls, I'll be neutral as I was in Edo, Ekiti, Anambra, and Osun. That's attributed to President Muhammadu Buhari. And then there are a number of riders to that. You didn't obey previous peace accord, Abdul Salami tells candidates, blames party spokesman for violation. You must accept the outcome, former President Goodluck Jonathan. Atmosphere right for election, that's according to the Security Council. PDP focused on rescuing Nigeria, not G5 governors. Igbo leaders want votes, not bullets in Southeast. Ombudsman, NPO, that's the Nigerian Press Organization, inaugurates 9-man board. Pro-Obi pollsters will cause post-election violence, APC campaign warns. Chukudi.
Thank you, Kingsley. So it has become a case of to be or not to be, as Nigerians largely contemplated. You know, the Supreme Court's verdict on March the 3rd, that's on the Naira redesign policy suit before it. I think in all, it's about 18 states that have gone to court. You know, 15 of them follow the steps of Zamfara, Kogi, and Kaduna. So the waiting game, which it is still for now, will soon come to an end. And we would know categorically where the matter is headed and know where we go from there. Because some people already have their grounds over, you know, Naira notes not circulating and all that. We don't want to preempt anything that is before the court. Let the court handle those things, you know. Now, political parties have put pen to paper again.
Sorry, before we leave that subject matter.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure what the media is reporting from the Supreme Court. Usually these days, the first encounter with breaking stories will be online sources. And then you try to then go over to newspapers or other media outlets that have an online presence. I didn't get the required clarity about the proceedings at the Supreme Court yesterday.
You noticed the hedging?
Not the hedging.
Okay.
The papers are reporting that the Supreme Court will deliver a judgment on the 3rd of March. Is that what the Supreme Court said when they were adjourning, their lordships, when they were adjourning to the 3rd of March, that they will deliver judgment or rule? There are two very critical issues at hand.
Really?
Yes. One, you have the case of the plaintiff states versus the Attorney General of the Federation and Edo and Bayelsa states on the other hand. And the federal government has an objection to the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. And a court of law all superior courts, including the Supreme Court, must resolve that issue of jurisdiction before it proceeds with the trial of the matter.
Procedurally.
If you get the procedure wrong, you don't get it right. And your judgment will be in vain. So has there been a ruling on the preliminary objection raised by the Attorney General of the Federation to the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court? I didn't hear that pronouncement yesterday, and yet we are saying that on the media organizations online and everybody, they were reporting that the Supreme Court will deliver a judgment on the 3rd of March. Because there were a number of issues that were raised by the council to the federal government as a defendant in the suit yesterday, and those issues are critical. Let's say, for instance, that you mentioned central bank 32 times in your brief. Or you call it brief. 32 times in your and it is not a defendant.
Yeah, but they were not joined. I've been wondering.
So that's what they're saying, that this is not a matter for the Supreme Court as a court of first instance. That the court of first instance is the Federal High Court. The Supreme Court itself has not resolved that. And if so, in other words, there has been no trial of the issue. The reason I'm pointing this out is so that on the 3rd of March, when we then hear when we get a decision from the Supreme Court, a decision, of course, I use that broadly because it encompasses the various strands of outcomes of a trial or of a process.
Yes.
So that when the Supreme Court then makes a pronouncement again on the 3rd of March, Nigerians will not say, hey, the Supreme Court, they have not decided on this matter and so on and so forth. From what I have read, I wasn't in court. So I don't know what fully transpired, and the bits and pieces I'm hearing, I can't quite piece them together to enable me to reach the conclusion that what we are expecting on the 3rd of March is a judgment.
It doesn't fit into your understanding of process. I understand.
The legal process, you don't understand it. It's the legal that's why.
When I say you understand, I'm talking about somebody who understands the law.
Yeah, it doesn't fit in.
Yes.
Because I'm saying that look, the first thing for the court to resolve is the preliminary objection to this jurisdiction. Yeah. Now, when the court resumed yesterday on that same matter, you recall there were a number of states that were saying, join us, join us. They said they will consolidate the issues by the other parties that are seeking to be joined, that are states, join them. Others want to join, it's the same matter. Don't come and crowd the place. Put you one side on the one side. The preliminary objection raised by the federal government through its council is still standing, and I have not heard any pronouncement on that preliminary objection. So if you read the stories online or in hard copy, you are not likely to hear the Supreme Court say that yes, we have jurisdiction on this matter. If you don't assume jurisdiction, you don't go on trial of the matter. And so which is when you are now trying to say, okay, that is when you now join issues. They have not even joined issues. So anyway.
You know, when the legal desk, brings stories to me in the newsroom, I have a way of trying to run away from them. Exactly. But somehow, Kingsley is now has forced me to become a student, and I'm beginning to enjoy it.
No matter how much you learn from Kingsley, he would never agree that you are a learned colleague. So just leave that. Leave that. No, but I like the fact that Kingsley is calling us on the process, and yes. It's important to listen because he understands the process as a lawyer. For many of us who are not lawyers, we just read what is in the papers and then we move around with that. For me, my concern is actually about the average Nigerian, the ordinary Nigerian on the street. Because the first breaking news yesterday was the fact that they said 500 and 1,000 naira notes, old ones, should continue to remain legal tender. Some news media carried that. And somebody on the street would just go on with that and say, oh, let me continue using it. And then you'll be surprised you wake up on March 3rd or any other date that the court fixes from what Kingsley has explained to us, and they tell you, well, that's not the position. Yes. So who suffers at the end of the day? So for me, really, in all this, even while we try to understand what's happening in the court and all of that, I think we should just listen to what the president has said. The fact that he has come out to speak, for now, we should just, abide by what he has told us and wait till we get further directives and not be swayed by what the media is putting out there. And it's also important for the media to also put out the right information out there. I think this brings, because I'm reading another story now about MC Olomo as regards the INEC and all that, and I'm hearing that the judgment is for later this week, maybe tomorrow, 24th. But, you know, as at 2 days ago, 3 days ago, we saw news everywhere about a court judgment on so and so and so. And, you know, and I'm just seeing it right now in the paper, and I'm like, what exactly is going on? So I think the media should actually be cautious with what they put out there.
Yes, I am happy you are joining us finally in berating members of our clan. If we do not easily understand court matters, there has always been a way out. There has been the judiciary correspondent, apart from the resource persons we resort to help us. It is not a shame that you do not understand an intricate matter. Court matters are not for crying out loud. So I am totally with Kingsley's, slant on the matter, that people should understand properly what the case is. Because once you put these things out to the public, it becomes gospel truth to them. So you better come out with that information that does not beguile or misinform or mislead. You understand? It is very important that we tidy up our matter in the newsroom so that we help the people understand properly.
The other point, I get the point you are saying, but the other issue, you see, when they said Naira swap will refuse to be scapegoat, says the Supreme Court. You know,
that scapegoat thing, I mean,
sometimes it's just sensationalism. You just speak the word that is suitable for you and then you run with it. And we have also discussed on Good Morning Nigeria that different interest groups are pursuing different story angles on the Naira swap matter. So it is the story that is suitable for, best suited to your interest that you try to ventilate. Yesterday in court, as part of the reports, the Attorney General of Lagos State was pushing for contempt committal proceedings against the Attorney General of the Federation and the Governor of the Central Bank for defying the order of the interim order of the Supreme Court. So they wanted that resolved, but that was why their lordships then said that, look, let's not get into all this things so that it doesn't then become a case of we are dragging on and then you say it's the Supreme Court that is delaying the matter. That's why the scapegoat thing came about. So they said, look, we'll keep that in abeyance and then we'll proceed with the issues. So where are your processes? File yours. Let's take a look at it. But what is crucial, I want to repeat this, what is crucial, unless, again, from the proceedings, unless the Attorney General of the Federation, through his counsel, submitted to jurisdiction yesterday, which I didn't get a sense of, then there's no trial yet. Yeah, the first matter to resolve is whether the Supreme Court has original jurisdiction
to try
in this matter. If it doesn't have original jurisdiction, it will wash its hands off or ask that the matter be remitted to the appropriate court, in this case the Federal High Court.
Please let me quickly chip this in. I like the job of the National Peace Committee. You see, the way that we make election matters intemperate, almost, we subject it to unnecessary stress. Every time a cycle, is completed and we're going to vote again, people give you the impression that we're beginning again, which is not true. I think it's troublemakers who try to make us go this way. Yesterday we were saying, look at the kind of things they have brought onto the scene. Nobody is even remembering that the debates, which had almost become a culture we instituted. Did you hear anything? Everybody performed the pilgrimage to Chatham House, and thereafter, it didn't matter what the local populace thought about the process. That is not good. It doesn't define progress in terms of people who are moving from point A to point B, or rather, who are progressing on the scale to what we might call the best practices in electoral systems. I think I like what the National Peace Committee is doing, but they have complained that there was some kind of 45% level of violation by political parties, particularly to their spokespersons. In fact, you don't know anymore whether defamation and slander mean anything to anybody anymore.
Yeah.
They take it all as politicking.
The truth of the matter is that you had a number of unprofessional spokespersons in the course of the 2023 election. It's a topic we discussed on Good Morning Nigeria, and I'm happy that a number of or entities have also picked this up, including the NIPR, that is the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations. And it's been a subject matter for conversation, for interaction, as to the unprofessional conduct of these persons who just believed, as I'm using that in the past tense now, because campaigns will end by midnight tonight, who believed that all you probably needed to do was for you to stand in front of a microphone or for you to issue one scurrilous statement. They were just not communicating.
Well, well said. In all of this, I think the media, I'm glad that you mentioned the Chatham House issue, and then you talking about spokespersons not sending the right message. The media has a role to play in all of these issues. Yes. If the spokespersons were going off guard and then the media practitioners were able to say, oh, well, you said this, we don't have it on air, or you're going this way, we can't have you on our platform, I'm sure maybe they would have thought and probably did the right thing. But, the media houses went ahead. Some of them went ahead, giving these people coverage, allowing them to say whatever they wanted to say. And that's why they continued. And then the issue of not having a debate this year, I think it's also the way the media positions itself in the country. Exactly. That is why, nobody, so we are the drivers. And they were talking about this judiciary issue. I think we should just call a spade a spade. Yes, we agree that we are all media practitioners. We are all to blame for this. We should say it as it is. I think we should actually go back to the drawing board and, do the right thing. Somehow it would help make our economy, make our country, saner, whether it's election time, whatever it is, whatever issue that is front burner. If the media positions itself properly, then I think the right thing will be done.
That's a very valid point you have raised. But at the same time, I just want to add a caveat. If the saner traditional media declined on professional grounds to ventilate the scurrilous positions being peddled by these unprofessional spokespersons, they had access to the social media. So, like a basement publisher, the spokesperson sits in the sitting room or in his lounge or a dining room, and then, he dressed in the garish manner and begins to say all kinds of things, and then he punches. And sends, and then everybody. I
agree that the social media is there, but we know that the traditional media still has more audience because there are many people in the rural areas who do not have access to social media. There are so many people who would rely on a news broadcast from a particular station to be sure that this thing is true or not. So it would have cautioned them a bit. Although yes, it may not have a stamp on putting an end to that kind of, but it would help to curtail the way.
Social media is a matter of I too have a phone. You understand? Fairness, factuality, objectivity, and balance, those parameters don't ever come into what they do. A social media person gets to a point of accident, sees some motionless bodies there, and tells you that 5 people died today at night, and about 3 of them are just unconscious. That's misreporting. So social media can never ever.
I you reporting live.
There he goes again. Kingsley. And again, before we leave, my people might not like us saying this, but the journalist has to say it from the hilt, so to speak. Is it really very encouraging, or should it be encouraged for somebody to come out from a newsroom and go and become somebody's media aide? There is such a thing as public speaking, and they need for you to learn it. That is why some naval officers will tell you that if they have money, I'm going to send my wife or even myself to one school in Switzerland where public speaking, finishing school there would nice you up so that you get to the level where you can tell a man to go to hell in a way that he looks forward to the trip. We have to learn all that.
That's fine. Thanks a lot, Chikwudi. I know that we are pressed for time, and I just want to crave the indulgence of our producer to bring this up, and I'll be very brief about it. EFCC deploys officers against vote buying. The report is that EFCC is deploying its officers across the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory ahead of the Saturday's election to check vote buying, meaning see and buy. So people are on the queue, you vote, you pay them. That's a good thing. But I think that the EFCC, ICPC, NFIU, that is the Financial Intelligence Unit, yes. That is the ACA, that the anti-corruption agencies should go beyond physical tracking of vote buying. And why am I saying this? There have been reports already that on account of naira scarcity, on account precisely, I've been transferred to you. No. so hang on a second. That is the point. So they say I hear that these vote buyers are making transfers already. How much I don't know. So it is for the NFIU,
yes,
ICPC, EFCC,
yes,
to let them just. You don't need to arrest everybody.
Yes,
pick a few. Assuming Kingsley Osadolo. If you can search, make a survey of my accounts. If I keep posting 10,000, and I post it to 100, 200 people, 300, 10,000.
You should be questioned.
The simple thing to do is just to ask, this 10,000 you are put, is it to buy groundnut or what?
Follow the money.
Follow, and then those who are also receiving it. Hey, how are you? What did you say to Kingsley that is giving you 10,000? That is the way to go, and that has to be early enough.
And that is the only way they can actually.
That's the wonderful thing about online activity.
And to be truthful,
they
that's
leave
the
a
only
footprint
way
you can easily.
What's the point?
And you see, what you have mentioned, tracking the online money is actually the best way to track vote buying. If you want to go on the field on that day and you want to see how they will transfer the money, the way they do it or the way they send money to one person or the other, it's not something that the ordinary eyes can see. You know, they have devised methods of, you know, giving people this cash and transfer without even knowing, you know, anything. I remember last election, 2019, how a mother with a baby, a nursing mother, was the one who was actually giving the cash, and you would never suspect. She carried her baby, she was breastfeeding, she sits, you know. So I mean, you know, if you are expecting to see people, if you are expecting to see, no, I'm just trying to say, if you're expecting to see somebody like Kingsley properly dressed, carrying money, and then you now suspecting that he's the one doing the vote buying. No.
No, but gentlemen, I'm sorry. Well, of course, gentlemen of the press. You know, the truth is this. It's provoking mirth in us, otherwise we are laughing. But we do know that this is a serious criminal offense. It's a breach of the Electoral Act, and it is what undermines the integrity of our elections.
It's dehumanization.
It's precisely. So we are saying that this is a major challenge. All the former tactics they were using to rig elections, INEC has closed up those avenues through the introduction of technology. So they are now going to blatant vote buying, and we must put a stop to it or reduce it to the barest minimum. So whether it's a mother who's carried a suckling or a guy who looks like Chukudi, you know, who is who is that, or Kingsley, who is making
who probably wear a t-shirt and a jean looking normal and ordinary on that day.
How will you explain that one individual makes transfers of equal amount?
Nobody should connect me to anything odious.
All right.
All right, I think we'll leave it at this point. Of course, looking forward to peaceful elections come Saturday. We'll take a break now, and then we'll be talking about the peace accord, which was signed in September and the one signed yesterday, just after this break. Please stay with us.
Haruna, Bisi, Akman, Unduka, how will I want to do on election day?
On election day, I go take my PVC. When I retire, they vote. Now broom I go put my hand over for Tinubu. On election day, I go take my PVC. When I retire, they vote. Now broom I go put my hand over for Tinubu.
People of Nigeria, make we all come out on election day and vote Asiwaju Bola Tinubu as president. Make Nigeria for better. Make you put your hand for APC, the party wey show broom. No forget oh, now broom you go put your hand in. Bam!
On election day, I go take my PVC. When I retire, they vote. Now broom I go put my hand over for Tinubu.
Operation Wild Punch covers Kaduna and Niger states. The operation was recently reorganized to also cover the critical Abuja-Kaduna Expressway, which had a defunct standby alone operation, codename Operation Thunder Strike. Additionally, as part of the Operation Wild Punch, a subsidiary operation codename Operation Forest Sanity has also been launched to flush out the terrorists from the forest that straddle Kaduna and Niger states. These efforts were geared towards flushing out criminal elements from the Kaduna-Abuja Expressway and its environment. I am pleased to inform that Kaduna-Kaduna Expressway has been secured through a combined efforts of the armed forces, the police, and other security agencies.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Enjoy 50% discount off in the Airtel Home Broadband Season of Love offer. Buy a router for just 10,000 Naira and get up to 240 gigabyte or a MiFi for 5,000 Naira and get up to 125 gigabyte bonus data. More data, more you. Reliable home broadband by
Airtel, the smartphone network. To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
What we face mostly now are flashes of cowardly attacks from the rump of groups that have been routed in one location or the other, moving to another to give the false impression that they are still strong. Our ultimate goal is to eliminate them altogether and restore total and lasting peace over every inch of the Nigerian soil. Sounding tall, but take it home. We are determined to ensure that every inch of the Nigerian soil is safe. That determination is there. The order has been given. But we shall continue to protect the lives and property of Nigerians and foreigners in our midst. We shall continue to work for the peace of the nation and deter elements that constitute threats to the people. We shall bear the full powers of the government to secure every inch of our land. We shall not rest until peace is fully restored to Nigeria.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
As a prompt for our conversation segment, which is on the 2023 elections final peace accord, let's take this background report put together by Abdusalam Jibril.
Prior to elections in Nigeria, the threats of violence before, during, and after elections is a constant feature in the country's election cycles. These threats and actual election-related violence engendered the signing of peace accords by presidential candidates and national chairmen of political parties committing to a peaceful poll devoid of violence before and after elections. Going down memory lane in the build-up to the 2015 general elections, a group led by former head of state General Abdusalami Abubakar and Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka put up a peace accord signed by political leaders to ensure a violence-free exercise. It was repeated for the 2019 elections, but the spirit of the accord was allegedly breached as pockets of violence was witnessed before, during, and after the televised ceremony. Just a day after campaigns opened in September last year, a peace pact was signed by presidential candidates of all 18 political parties, committing themselves to a peaceful campaign for the 2023 general elections. Thereafter, however, there have been reports of violence, intolerance, hate speech, foul language, abuse, harassment, and general bad faith. Yesterday, a second pact was signed by the presidential candidates. This was done to enlist their commitment to a peaceful conduct of the 2023 presidential election.
I urge all stakeholders to understand this event has the potential of setting a positive trajectory in our journey to a peaceful and more democratized Nigeria.
We need peaceful elections to give democracy a boost on the continent, especially in our sub-region, where civil rule is threatened by a wave of unconstitutional changes of government.
Beyond the fine print of the pact, will political gladiators and their supporters in particular abide by the pact? Are there punitive measures for erring individuals or groups? And will the law be upheld and hold anyone accountable for their actions, no matter their status? Guest on the program will be speaking to the final peace accord ahead of the 2023 general elections shortly.
All right, thank you very much, Salam Jibril, for that background. And we have with us in the studios a member of the National Peace Committee. A pleasure this time to welcome His Eminence, John Cardinal Onoyeko. Your Eminence, we're glad to have you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Kingsley, for inviting me. Good morning, viewers. God bless everyone.
And then we also have with us the head of data collection, Uzabe Election Observer Mission 2023, Mukhtar Modibo. Mukhtar, we're glad to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Yeah, let's begin with His Eminence, John Cardinal Onoyeko, the whole idea of National Peace Accord. Originally, it was conceived for the presidential election in 2015, and then it's gained traction around the country. But what does this mean to members of the National Peace Committee? Is this ritualistic, or it's intended to become ingrained as part of our electoral process?
Thank you very much, Kingsley. It's interesting when I look back how I got involved in this, shall I say, business. It started off somehow like you want to do something, there was a tense atmosphere, and somebody came and asked me, do you want to be part of a committee that may do something to drown douse tension? The person who came to me is Senator Ben Obi, and he came from the government, from the State House, and explained what he had in mind. So I said, oh, count me in, count me in. Anything having to do with peace, I am there. And so that's how it started. I didn't know who else he had contacted, but by the time we started, the house was full, because we started with more than 30 people, all of whom were interested in this 2015 election. I must say, I never imagined that the group will continue beyond after that election. So we didn't have an agenda beyond try and prevent, if we can prevent any escalation of violence as a result of the election before, during, and after. The election then was between our present president and President Jonathan, between PDP and APC mainly. There were other parties, but they were not in contention. And so we started. The choice of the people he contacted must have had in mind he was looking for people who could be considered more or less impartial. All the various religious leaders were brought in. The current president was there. At that time, it was Orise Jafo. He was there. I remember the primate of the Anglican Communion, Archbishop Uko, was among us, just to give example. There were other people. And that's how it started. The only way I can see this is that after the little effort we made, it did appear that it made an impact well beyond our plans. Since I'm a religious person, I cannot discount that God may have a hand in what happened. It's a kind of what we call a divine force that sometimes take charge of affairs. You do your best, and then God makes sure. So it was after that, after the 2015 election, we were not even meeting anymore, and I thought that was the end of it. Then, it was when the 2019 election was approaching, General Abdul Salami started making calls around, and you use the right word, it gathered traction. And particularly international community here in Abuja took it very seriously. The embassies, the organizations, the EU, and so on. Even our ECOWAS too took very strong interest. Among Nigerians, there was a kind of usual Nigerian approach. Some say, oh, they have done a good job. Others who are saying it's only ritualistic. Well, I do a lot of rituals. That's my job. But I do it in the church. If I have to do anything ritualistic, I will go to the church. It's more than ritualistic for me. At some point, I was having doubts whether I should continue, because it was, you say you sign a peace accord, the politicians continue with it doesn't seem to impact on their way of behaving, and you want to give it up. Then somehow I realized that it's not altogether useless, and so I kept on with it. And others dropped out, never came back. So that's how we are left with a small group, and later others were brought in. The group that you saw yesterday, some were recently brought in with the coming of this new election. But the whole idea now has, I imagine, taken shape. We were not appointed by anybody, and nobody is paying us a kobo or shishi. Now we say, nobody's paying me a shishi. But you felt that if what you are doing is helping the nation, that's what every Nigerian should be happy to participate in. So that is generally what I can say. When we started, there was no office, no organization to work on. Then we needed an office to arrange things, and that's how the Kuka Center came in. Kuka himself was a member of the party, and his center was became the center that was helping us with the logistics of this whole affair, and it has become Kuka Center National Peace Committee affair.
All right. Thank you so much, His Eminence, for that explanation. Mukhtar Modibo, I'm sure you heard His Eminence, and you've been following the Peace Committee since 2015, when this peace accord actually started, signing of peace accord by political parties and, the contestants. Quite, very beautiful initiative. And like His Eminence has said, in 2015, we could say that we saw the impact of the peace accord. But let's be more specific now, looking at 2023. I remember the first peace pact was signed in September,
yes,
just before the resumption of campaigns. Now, looking at the campaigns, which will end midnight today, what's your assessment? Because would you say that the peace accord that was signed just before the campaigns, to make sure that everything was without violence, and all of that, would you say it has impacted on the campaign so far?
Okay, so first of all, right, it's not about the gathering. It's not about the paper and the pen and the signing. It's about the deliberate efforts the people that are signing are making. Now, so let's look at what are the deliberate efforts they made when they signed in September till this moment that they signed the second one, right? And how systematic are they following their campaigns? To be honest with you, politicians give us what is called political ideology. Now, you believe in your political ideology, and if you believe in your political ideology, if I believe in one person's political ideology, I run through with the political ideology, right? Now, if you look at the campaigns that have been happening, right, and the spokespersons that we have in the 2023 election, right, you could understand that there have been a lot of issues. Issues of, you know, this very party will come out as a spokesperson, you trash the other party using some words that are not even appropriate. Yeah, the other one will want to counter it, the other one will want to counter it. And then what happened? The people that are following, right, are the ones that pick the fight. Then in the morning, the people who wake up watching NTA, seeing you signing, shaking, signing peace accord, right? So what will you leave them with? Someone might not have seen you do that. Maybe he's supporting this party, the other person is supporting this party. They've already had a fight, right? And then in the morning, the other party has seen you guys signing, shaking, hugging each other, and what the other party did not see. They continue with their fight. So to be honest, we are moving. We are taking steps, right? But I want to say the steps are not being deliberately being followed by the people that are meant to follow it. So, and coming back to your question, what are the significance? After signing the accord, literally you've watched the presidential campaigns across the country. There have been a lot of banters, there have been a lot of insult and what have you. And we've seen some numbers of attacks on INEC offices and INEC materials, right? So now today, as someone that want to observe election, one of the contingency plan that we have for our observers is, you know what? Don't travel to observe election. Please observe election where you're voting, not because of anything. Hardly in some places you identify an INEC official or an observer or a party agent. So if it happens, it will happen to everybody, right? So the thing is, how do we curtail it? Now, how do we speak about it? You cannot register something in someone's head or ears without continuously repeating that particular thing. So the Peace Committee, the Kuka Center have done their own bit of calling you together. Let's sign the peace accord. Now you sign the peace accord. What do you do? Not just you. What does your campaign council do? Right? What kind of message do your campaign council preach out? I'm a young person. I do social media, right? I'm always on Twitter. I'm always on Facebook and what have you. Just take a look and see how people pass on messages. And immediately after Saturday, the whole thing comes back to normal, right? So the thing is, to be honest, how do people perceive the information you give, and how do people comprehend that information, and then what deliberate effort you're making is what matters, not just the signing. So for me, that's my stand actually.
Okay, Mukhtar, thank you very much. I want to return to His Eminence John Cardinal Nwoyeko. How challenging is it for the National Peace Committee in getting signatories to the peace accords? I say peace accords now because I know that you have also had some during the off-cycle season elections. How challenging is it for the National Peace Committee to get signatories to the peace accords to recognize the import of what they are executing?
I already said in my previously that we have not been appointed by anyone. The peace accord, strictly speaking, has no institutional locus standi. And somebody was mentioning about saying if the parties do not follow what the peace accord says, do we have any way of sanctioning? And this is where I come back to the fact that we are even surprised ourselves at what kind of traction has followed this peace accord. It is not a government institution. It has no powers, none whatsoever. It's purely what we call, it's a kind of
suasion.
I'm looking for the word. I'm almost say spiritual, moral. Yes, that's the right word. It's a moral force. It's like There's nothing the National Peace Committee is pushing that is not already either in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria or in the electoral acts. So we are not making any new laws for anybody. Probably the most we are doing is remind them, which is why when they do not follow what we are saying, it means that they are not following what they should be doing, and there are institutions there that are supposed to take it up with them, and that which means our position and is only the moral force that we have. I mentioned that we are surprised at the interest that the international community has put in this. We saw that yesterday at the highest level. And each and every one of them kept saying, more or less, that challenging the politicians. The whole world is watching you. It was made very clear that if anything goes wrong, they are the ones to be blamed for it. Let's hope that INEC will not cause trouble for us. When I say INEC, I don't mean only Professor Mahmoud. As you know, Mahmoud has over thousands of staff. We cannot guarantee what different INEC staff will do in one place or the other. They can create problems if they don't do their work well. The security agencies who are and the IG spoke on their behalf. If they do not carry out the so-called peacekeeping operations that they have in a professional and humane manner, they can create a lot of problems. But if we presume that these institutions do their work, it remains, again, the responsibility of the political parties to behave well, their body language, the statements they make, and the way what they tell their supporters. For example, it makes a lot of difference if a party leader keeps telling his supporters, whatever happens, don't go violent. Let it be said by them clearly. Whatever happens, we are not going violent. And if you go violent, you're on your own. You are not acting on our behalf. We want to hear that. We want to hear that. And when a political leader says that, he's not saying anything new. There is nothing ideological about this. It's basically the right thing to do. So that is what I want to stress, that we are not a government agency. We are surprised that people are taking it seriously, not only the international community, but also the party, the politicians themselves. It is interesting. There was no difficulty. In fact, it seems that all of them were anxious to come when we invite them. And I think it is good that it's about the only forum where they meet, all these political parties, where they meet without it being where they meet freely, like Nigerians. It is wonderful for me yesterday to see them, all those 18 future presidents of Nigeria, or the prospective presidents of Nigeria, lined up according to the alphabetical order of their political parties. And
is it possible? I'm sorry, Your Eminence. Is it possible that perhaps you are understating the significance of the moral force that the peace accord represents? Because if you look at the presence of members of the international community and the caliber of representation, United Nations Secretary General was represented through the special representative. The Commonwealth was also present. At the top level, Secretary General of the Commonwealth and former heads of state who are leading various observer missions for ECOWAS, for the AU. And then you also have the EU delegation. You also have ambassadors who are a person, therefore, who emerges through a process such as this could have some measure of credibility, because there is a reporting system from these various entities back to their principals. So that's why I'm asking Your Eminence whether you're not understating the high moral force that the peace accord actually represents.
Well, I'll be the last person to understate the force of, the importance of moral force, because that's all I have actually. As a religious person, we don't have a way of forcing people to behave well, but we give them moral. We ask people, tell people, this is what to do. That's what we spend our time doing on the pulpit, whether Christian or Muslim. So I have strong belief in the force of moral persuasion. And why is there force in moral persuasion? We go back to the point I made about the divine force. If you don't believe in God, then it's difficult to believe in the power of moral force. And I begin to feel that God has just made this possible for us to have this. And I've decided to continue with it for as long as I can. And I have the strong feeling that all those people who signed yesterday, they were not only there for Photoshop. Yes, they must have been also, and they listened to what everybody was saying. Like I mentioned, they were constantly challenged that the whole world is looking on to us in Nigeria.
All right, His Eminence, thank you so much. I like the fact that we have mentioned that we had the international community, we had people from high places present at the signing yesterday who agreed that, this peace committee should go ahead with the peace accord and the candidates should actually come forward and sign. But, the average Nigerian watching, that ceremony yesterday and then the one that was signed in September would say that it's just a formality, it's just a ceremony, just a show by these candidates. And you have said that the committee has no powers. I remember in September when the first accord was signed, not all the presidential candidates presented themselves. Yes. Some sent representatives and all that, and then some didn't show up at all. Now, will it be okay, to say that for the presidential candidates, for the politicians who were present yesterday, it's just a show, just to say that, okay, fine, we agree to this, what the committee is doing, but they don't have the powers to hold us down, and then, they'll still go ahead, whatever they want to do come Saturday, because we have seen that play out during the campaigns. And yes, in as much as we want to be very optimistic that things will go well on Saturday, well, of course, we also have to create room for the fact that some politicians will still go about their normal business, trying to cause violence, trying to, disrupt the process, trying to do, one thing or the other that is not morally right. So, I mean, how would you react to that?
I don't know whether I know exactly what the average Nigerian out there is saying. The only thing I can say is that Nigerians have different perspectives and perceptions. There are Nigerians, I'm sure, who seeing that kind of thing are encouraged by it and hope that things will come out of it. And there are other Nigerians who are very cynical, and you don't blame them. The way things have gone in this country, you need to be ruthlessly patriotic, not to be cynical. Not to be cynical. Yeah, because we've heard all kinds of beautiful words that have been completely thrashed in the So to the extent that when you are doing something that is noble and good, it's difficult for people to believe it is possible. Like this whole expression, this is Nigeria, meaning you don't expect anything good. But the work of the National Peace Committee dares to take a different approach, that something good can come out of this country. And this peace committee and the fact that the politicians come together, they were not forced. If any of them fail to turn up, the only sanction they have is the moral sanction. And I can imagine that if any of them so vividly make themselves absent yesterday, it will have repercussions on them, even politically. And I'm sure that is part of their calculation. Nobody wants to be found to be absent in an occasion like that. Why don't they want to be absent? Because they recognize the moral force of what going there do. But when you recognize a moral force, you somehow there must be some kind of conviction you have about it. And the average Nigerian should be able to take to become encouraged that we are not doomed to a violent election. Everybody was speaking in the same direction, that we must have a free, fair, and peaceful election. I come back again to the institutions of government, because it is they who have the responsibility to make sure that the right thing is done. It is they who have the clout to sanction anybody, no matter, even the presidential candidate, if the messes up, he should be sanctioned. If they can be sanctioned, that's their job. That's their job, they do it. But like I said, the most important contribution we expect from the institutions is that they do their job well. Many Nigerians are quite skeptical. You know the way even our INEC, that's a discussion for another day. The way the INEC is formed, that is clearly at the mercy of the government in power, which means INEC has to go a long way, double way, to convince us that they are independent. I know that it is possible for the chairman of INEC to be independent if he wants to be. He can refuse to be forced to do the wrong thing, even by the person who appoints him. Now, but many Nigerians will say, well, we shall see, we don't know. Which is why Mahmoud Yusuf has a lot on his table, and the security agencies. I'm one of those who are rather worried at the level of heavy security apparatus and machinery that is rolled out on election day. Election is not war. It's as if the country has declared war. And all that because we are pursuing a few troublemakers. Because of that, the rest of us are practically presumed to be criminals. That affects the freedom of people to move around. It affects the sense of being able to just go and do what you want. It's the same thing with Naira swap now. You create a situation where you are pursuing a few bad people, and then it is the rest of us, we are all have to pay for it. And if the institutions were working well, I'm sure they can target those who are cornering our money.
Exactly.
Without turning all of us into overnight beggars.
All right, Your Eminence, thank you very much. Mukhtar Modiba, I want to come back to you, still on the letter and spirit of the peace accord. Is there a sense in which Nigerians, or some Nigerians, assume that the peace accord is essentially for the political parties and the presidential candidates, rather than being again a reminder of the moral undertone that election and electioneering ought to take? In other words, that the representatives you have at the signing ceremony are actually standing in, as it were, on behalf of their supporters, on behalf of the rest of society, to say, this is the way we want to go. Because as His Eminence explained, there is nothing certainly new in terms of legal prescriptions, whether constitutional or otherwise, in the letter of the peace accord itself. Just bring out the salient points and say, for the purpose of this forthcoming exercise, this is the way we want to go. Are we, the rest of Nigerians, taking ourselves apart from this and say, look, it is the business of the political class? Some always assume that, anyway, politics is dirty. Has that also come to haunt us?
No, if you look at it, you cannot take it away from us that we are religious. To be honest with you, you cannot take it off from us that we are religious. So sitting down here, let me give you an example. When His Eminence walked in, all I wanted to do is to sit down on the ground. Because, why? Because, I mean, growing up, I know nobody can dress like him if he is not him, all right? So you cannot take away that we're religious. So if you look at the amount of people, the number of people, the caliber of people, right, that are there during the signing of the peace accord, that should tell you that a lot of people are in the same page with the people that are signing. Now, the only question will be, nobody can, there are few people that can incite violence, right? And these people, this is government, this is 21st century. Technology has helped us to really see how we can tackle these people. To be honest, in other clans, in other countries, an offense that was committed in the 90s, that there were not some machines or some technology to trace these people, are being traced now. DNA is being traced to someone that killed someone in the 90s, all right? So, but the thing is, we have to also understand that this is 21st century. There is a limit to what people think. And where your right end is exactly where someone's right begins, right? They have done theirs, and they have followers. Now, the kind of followers they have is, this is a political season. The limit to what His Eminence can say is, please go out and vote, and then maintain the peace, right? The limit to what INEC can do is to say, we are giving you a free, fair, and credible election. The limit to what police and other security personnel can do is to say, we are going to make the environment peace for you to act. Then what is the next thing? The next thing is, what will people want? What do you want as a person? That is the thought. Now, what you want as a person is what you represent, because what I am voting today is what I represent, right? So if you go and vote for what you represent, all you need to do is to stay away and make yourself a person that can work. So for me, I think it's the reflection of what people say, because nobody see people like His Eminence. Each and every Sunday, people come to meet him. If there is any issue, the first thing I tell you as a Muslim, while growing up, the first person I see if I have issues with my father is a pastor, right? And my father would not dare do anything to me if the pastor spoke to, like, had conversation with him. Not because of anything, not because he's afraid of him, and not because he is my father, but because I know he has influence over my father. So imagine if they are the ones preaching peace, right? As religious people, there is nothing we can do rather than to follow. The last thing I would say is, now, the people that signed this peace accord, you know what you signed, and you're accountable to what you signed. Your legitimacy is what brought you there, because people think you're credible to contest for election. So allow us hold you accountable. Holding you accountable is, what service do you provide? Now, in providing service, like His Eminence said, stand up and tell people, go and vote. If you do anything violent, it's for you. You're not representing me. The people will know that, whatever we do, I mean, this person has no issue. Then automatically the whole thing will thrive, because each and every one of us have something to do.
Okay, thank you, Mukta Modibo. At this point, we'll take a break. When we come back, the conversation will continue. Please stay with us.
Great people of our land, at the dawn of light, did you know that while our gallant men were fighting off bandits and insurgents, we were also laying a solid foundation for the infrastructure revolution to spark the growth of our economy? Did you know that the revolution stops not with infrastructure? Now we reap harvests of progress in agriculture, with more than 4 million farmers anchored to the Anchor Borrower Scheme for 23 diverse cultivations, with fertilizer revolution, rice revolution, export revolution, as we now grow what we eat and eat what we grow. Now, as we stand at this dawn of light, let us move forward with renewed hope. Let's elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Senator Kashim Shettima as President and Vice President to birth the greater Nigeria of our collective dreams.
This message is brought to you by the National Working Committee of the APC.
APC Progress.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social media. Before you broadcast that false message, think twice. Ask whether it will promote peace or violence. For safety at home, still be security conscious. Educate your household on safety tips. Report all suspicious movements and persons to the security agencies nearest to you. Be a good citizen. Be patriotic. To pass security information, please call 0813-222-2105, 0915-339-1309, 0908-837-3514, or send a mail to dsspr@dss.gov.ng. This message is from the Department of State Services, DSS.
At last, the elections are here. Let's turn out en masse on election day and vote Asiwaju Bola Tinubu as President of Nigeria for a renewed hope and a better Nigeria. Vote APC, the party that shows a broom.
The Ministry of Police Affairs under my watch has been instrumental to strengthening the Nigerian police force to tackle challenges in the internal security architecture of the nation. To effectively achieve its mandate to protect lives and property within Nigeria, the Nigerian police have deployed operational intelligence and the ICT-based apparatus to tackle and stem the tide of crime and criminality. Some of these efforts include the maximization of the Force Intelligence Bureau, Intelligence Response Team, and Special Tactical Squads. 2. Digitalization of emergency contacts via the NPF Rescue Me application for emergency response at the tap of a button.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
As the 2023 elections draw near, remember, evil prospers when good men and women only wish for peace, but never take a step to make peaceful elections happen. Are you a father? Are you a mother? What are you saying to your children as elections approach? Have you warned them not to let themselves be used to cause violence? Have you explained to them what the consequences of electoral violence might be? Do your part to make peaceful elections happen. Talk to your children. Protect them from unscrupulous politicians who want to put them in harm's way, while their own children are comfortable at home, within, and outside the country. Let's join hands to make 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOAA.
All right, welcome back. You're still watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA, and we're talking about the Peace Accord, the second, which was signed yesterday. We still have with us right here in the studio His Eminence John Cardinal Nayekon and Mokhtar Modibo. I'll quickly just go to His Eminence now. Off camera, while we went on that break, we're talking about politics in Nigeria. And that brings me to my next question about why do you think that politicians prefer to use violence? They prefer, force. They prefer to, just do what is not moral. Like we've said, like Modibas mentioned, spokespersons, insulting and using all kinds of words on the next party and all of that. And then we see during the campaigns, there's just, it's just totally what you hardly find in certain climes. All right. So why do you think that for us in Nigeria, once it's election season, a lot of people are worried? As we speak, some people are already thinking of going to their villages and relocating. No, let's be truthful, because they perceive that, there may be violence, there may be issues in certain areas. So why do you think that, violence seems to take center stage in our politics in this country? And what do you think is the way out?
If I was a Nigerian politician, I would be very worried, because the word politician has been given a very bad name. And not much is being done to redeem that bad name. Unfortunately, too, those who have been succeeding in Nigerian politics have constituted themselves into experts of what it means to be a Nigerian politician. When you find a politician that says a new idea comes and says he has no structures, he doesn't have anything, meaning he has not been there before. But we are saying we don't want to go to where we were before. So let me the major point now is, what exactly is politics? And I'll keep insisting, I preach it every day, that politics is a sacred undertaking. Somebody volunteers to serve the public good. And we have our church document at the highest level, even as the rider, somebody volunteers to serve the public good, not minding his own personal interest. In other words, you enter politics to offer yourself as in a sacrificial way, totally different from how people see politics. That is where to go to either make money or to retain the money you have stolen already. Now, if we can change that attitude, and we get Nigerians generally to say, we want leaders who will be there to serve us, not only talking, but in reality, who will not have their bank account revolutionized within a month because of the perks of office that has gone way beyond normal, who will just be there to do the right thing, to work for the good of the people, for the good of the poor. Then things will begin to change. The kind of people that will be involved in politics will be people who want to serve. It is not impossible. If we see the great politicians in history, they were people who offered themselves. In a way that we have the wrong approach about politics as war. Getting good done is also a kind of battle. But it has to be a good battle. And if we can manage to to have that idea of serving people, not in writing, not just in all the manifestos of the political parties are very beautiful documents. If you look at them, there's not much difference between them, because that is the reality of things. If that can happen, that will be what we'll be needing. It will not happen overnight. But I don't think Nigeria can continue to reconcile itself to constantly having politics meaning what a gang of oppressors do to us. We must find a way to liberate ourselves from that. And I don't think we shall be liberated by the professional politicians who have managed to construct a way of ruling Nigeria that we are now seeing is not carrying us where we should be going. You cannot want things to change radically if we continue to use the same parameters, the same system. Use the same system for capturing power. You are going to continue the same way. This is where how are we going to get this change? It is not impossible. Sometimes it happens by revolution. The whole country just decides to revolt. But the trouble is that revolutions are chaotic. They are unpredictable. In the Nigerian situation, I believe, is such that there is still room to get things changed radically peacefully. That is the kind of job that a person like me is doing. May I add here, by the way, that there has been an evolution in the work, in the concept, understanding of the Peace Committee, where we have now begun to do more than just dealing with elections. We have been involved in other kinds of conflict situations. For example, even the farmer header conflict, we got involved. We went to Kaduna when there was a lot of killing going on. Boundary disputes, we venture into them, but in a very, very gentle way, without, as you can see, without making noise. But I just want to say that the Peace Committee realizes that you can't just be thinking about elections alone. You have to also look at how Nigerians are living among themselves. Yesterday too, Mr. President, at the end, made a concluding, more than remark, concluding address, in which he also congratulated the National Peace Committee and then promised that his administration was going to encourage the work of the committee. What does that mean? I don't know. But certainly I hope it doesn't mean that we are going to become a parastatal, because I would then pull out if it reaches that stage. But it does mean then that the government might find a way of encouraging the work of the committee. Like I said, we don't ask for salaries, but it does cost money to arrange that kind of thing. I'm not particularly proud of the fact that much of the funding are coming from donors and foreign donors, and it need not be so. My personal opinion is that we don't have to look for foreign donors to do our work. Even we have among us, Dangote is one of our members. I'm sure he can manage to get a little change to settle whatever bills we have. If we ask him, Femi Otedola is there too. So this whole idea of waiting for that kind of money from EU, from Swiss embassy, begins to make you feel that I hope you are independent of them. As far as I'm not influenced by them, but I think those are the things we are now.
But don't you think it is better to have the international community sponsor an initiative like this than having government sponsor it? Because what you mentioned, the Independent National Electoral Commission a while ago, and you talked about the fact that, well, because the government of the day constitutes, the body, and then those who manage it and all of that, so people are beginning to say, oh, is this actually independent and all of that? If you have the government now sponsoring an initiative like this, don't you think it will also create another tone? I mean, when you're having another election and people will think, oh, well, the Peace Committee is being sponsored by the government, so it's possible that whatever the party of that particular government, does, I mean, the Peace Committee will look away. But if it's another party, then they will now say, oh, well, you have breached the contract. I'm just saying.
Two reactions to that. First, there's nothing wrong with government supporting an independent initiative which they don't control. It happens all over the world.
But they say he who pays the piper calls the tune.
No, not necessarily.
So
not
I mean, yeah,
no,
I'm just saying.
No,
because see, I mentioned a while ago that the average Nigerian on the street, I actually interacted with some people while that meeting was going on yesterday, and a lot of people were like, they're just a formality, just a ceremony. They just want to, show and all of that. I'm letting you know that that will be the perception. Once you have government involved, like you mentioned initially when you started, you said, well, this is a private thing, government is not involved. That will be some reason why some Nigerians begin to say, oh, maybe these people are actually credible, and maybe their intention is actually true and pure. But when you now have government there, and then government has a party, of course, the government of the day has a party that is emanated from, and would probably have a candidate for the next election and all of that. So when they sponsor you, would that not mean that the Peace Committee would now begin to look away when that particular party does the wrong thing because they want to get funds for the next peace meeting, or
when government is one thing, the money that government spends is public funds, and that we must get that into our heads in Nigeria. We should not believe that the people who run government have a right to spend our money anywhere they like.
I'm taking my question from what you mentioned as regards the Independent National Electoral Commission some minutes ago, when you talked about it. So
remember, I
that's
also
my
said,
question is coming from.
even though the INEC is being totally funded by government, the constitution of INEC says that it has to be independent. In other words, it is understood that in this case, he who pays the piper does not dictate the tune. There are situations where government money is spent for an institution that is completely independent of government. If by government to mean those who control the government. But the second aspect I wanted to bring out is this. We are now arriving at the argument: do we get the money from Nigerian government, or do we get it from the Swiss government? It's still government money, you know. Only that it's the government of the foreign countries. So the bottom line is you are using government funds. We have here in Nigeria, let me give you a very good example. There's this organization called CRS, Catholic Relief Services. They have a substantial amount of money, which they are spending very well, and we are facilitating their work. They are not serving, even though their name is Catholic Relief Services, they don't work only for Catholics. Yeah. They serve everybody. But 90% of the money they are spending is United States government money. Because the United States government has provision for money that they will give for this kind of thing. And I've kept saying, it's a shame on our government that the Catholic Church in America can have access to American government money to go and spend on doing charity work all over the world. And here we are in Nigeria, our government has no provision for such a thing. These are issues that brought up later. So it is good that this argument is coming up, that government money. The same story about how the money, whether the government money is the money of the people in government, or is it not our public funds that should be used for the common good. When we reach there, we get there. For the moment, we are okay. But my own idea is that rather than rely very much on foreign international bodies, we have enough resources within ourselves to sort out. We have done
and probably get Nigerians to support you.
Oh yes, that's what I mean.
That would be a good initiative.
That's what I mean. Like he mentioned, he reminded us, we have two people with sufficient money. The amount they spend on the holiday.
I think you should say 3, including you.
The amount they spend on their holidays.
That's moral.
My sister, I don't have much money, but I'm not hungry. I'm in a position that if I'm hungry, all I need to say, oh, I'm hungry, and people will give me food.
Thank you very much, Your Eminence. Very quickly, back again to the substance of the 2023 peace accords. First one is September, and then the second one signed yesterday. In giving his chairman's remarks yesterday, General Abdulsalami Abubakar itemized the areas of infraction of the first peace accord. And you could see that infraction by political parties per se, infraction level was pretty low. Well, most of the infractions came from party spokespersons. Because the key thing was, look, we want issue-based campaigns, and then, of course, avoid hate speech, and then avoid the inflaming passions and character assassination. What, in your opinion, went wrong? This is an observation now. This is like an M&E by the Peace Committee. The Peace Committee will lay all of this on the table for everybody to take from there. And I think during the first peace accord, the party spokespersons were in attendance. So what then happened? That couldn't have been the fault of the peace committee. And the spokespersons were also not, as it were, free agents. So how do we mitigate this in future rounds of elections? That you have party spokesmen. It's an issue we've discussed on Good Morning Nigeria, NIPRO, and all kinds of communication specialists. That some of the spokespersons appeared, with the greatest respect to them, to have just been a nuisance in this cycle of elections.
So to be honest with you, like I said earlier, when I made my first comment, is the fact that the spokespersons were not identifying 4 things. One, they were not identifying how people perceive what they are saying, and they are also not identifying how people comprehend what they are saying. And in doing that, they were just carried away by the fact that they have some few people around them that say, oh, you did fantastically well, whereas you did nonsense. Sorry to use the word. Because, I mean, you're not looking at people, you're looking at what you say to yourself. So for me, I would say maybe in another cycle, what we can do differently is when appointing a spokesperson, right, you should be deliberate and be systematic in, does this person have antecedent of, speaking around hate speech, fake news, and what have you? Because sometimes the spokesperson dash out fake news, right? So I think we have to be identify these 2 things: making deliberate effort in appointing these persons, and then making systematic, effort as well. Just to cap it all, I think they should also know that they have children, and there is future. Let's be traditional rulers. Let's be religious leaders. Where a religious leader and a traditional ruler is not thinking about now. He's thinking about here. He will still be here, and the future will still hold. And I think if we put that effort and we watch the service we do provide, right, and how the service will come back and haunt us, and also understand speaking to people about power. Because, this power, there's power within, there's power off. So let's all understand this is democracy. And what democracy gives us is power within. All of us have power in between each other. You have your own power to host us here. I have my own power to curtail the kind of content I give. So if spokesperson and every other person speaks to people about peace, they speak to people about what people will understand and how they are mindful of how people will comprehend it, and then making deliberate effort to see how they can put people together, I think we will run a good race and win the race together.
Kersley, we'll go back again to the need for a radical review of our concept of politics. And 2 things that we have to draw our attention to. The idea that the politician doesn't have to tell the truth. And people are sort of resigned to it. In fact, when you tell a lie, they say, are you a politician? Now, but you can't run anything, not even a nation, on the basis of lies, because lie is the opposite of reality. Lies means you go out of the reality. And if you tell the lie can run far, but it doesn't go too fast. So that's the first thing, that politics, you don't have to tell the truth. And we seem to be resigned to the fact that means what we just say things that we think will promote our personal selfish interest. Secondly, we have been used for a long time to the fact that politicians they insult one another. And we take it for granted that that's right. That is a normal thing to do. But our electoral law says you should not insult one another. And the National Peace Committee takes this up seriously. And that is why we also record those people who have been insulting one another and pull them up, name and shame them. Well, we didn't name them, but we shamed them anyway. We shamed them, that this should not happen. I think that means another change of perspective that we should have about politics, that it doesn't mean that when you are in politics, you can insult people with reckless abandon. If you want to counter anybody, because if it is a matter of debate about ideas, how best to run the nation, this can be done without insult. Can we reach that stage? In which case, what my brother is saying comes true, that the choice of who will be the party spokesperson will have to be deliberate, meaning you mean that they will have to check not just background, but also competence, training, because this does not come naturally. I was trained to be a preacher, and one of the things you should try to do is be positive in what you say. Yeah. Even when you're angry, be positive.
Your Eminence, thank you very much for the points you raised. There is a third one I would like to throw in. Yes. It's fairly common. You have said we assume that politicians are liars. Yes. Second point, we assume that politicians can insult each and one another. Yes. The third one, which is more dangerous, in my opinion, that there is a presumption that criminal offenses committed in the course of electioneering are deemed to be part of the electoral process.
Yeah, come on. Yes. Yes.
So they were fighting over election. So this, I mean, if you burn down somebody's house or somebody's property, willful destruction of, it's a criminal offense.
Or even kill somebody.
Not even just kill. If you just injure, or wound or threaten a person, you say that I'm going to deal with you. It's that this I think we take it for granted.
Security operatives do take it for granted.
Absolutely. So they themselves don't seem to understand the law. So you just take it that this is part of election.
And
during
election,
they let it go.
Sorry to cut you. During election, we tend to forget about people's mental health. From the state actors to the non-state actors. So I was in Sokoto some time ago, I think 2 weeks ago. So a campaign trail was passing. The amount of weapons those guys are holding. So if I say weapons, the knives, the daggers, and what have you, automatically I was shaking, like literally. I was talking to my mom, like, really, I'm in Sokoto, but anything can happen. Yeah, from the show of force that we do, His Eminence said it. Like the show of force, automatically, someone that has problem, his mental health or her mental health will have something.
Some people avoid election day because of their mental health, their state of health. They say you're not feeling too sound, so you shouldn't go and vote because anything can happen. Well, anyways, thank you so much. Because of time, we'll have to leave it at this point. I'd like to thank His Eminence, for coming on the program. It's an honor to have you, I must say.
It's an honor to be here.
And when I said that you are rich, it's because the Bible says that the Lord will supply all our needs according to His riches in glory. Thank you so much, John Cardinal Naiko, for joining us on the conversation this morning. We sincerely appreciate you for your time. We also want to appreciate Mukhtar Modibo, Uzabe Election Observer Mission 2023, Head of Data Collection. Thank you for being our guest. And that's it on Good Morning Nigeria. Today, election day is on Saturday. I think it's safe to say we have just a few hours to go. I'm here in Ray John. Do the needful.
All right. Good Morning Nigeria is back tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Look after yourselves. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.